Hello everyone watching me, thanks for joining me in this video. One thing is certain regarding Mazi Nnamdi Kanu deal. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is coming out victoriously. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is emerging victoriously. It doesn't matter the hate, this conspiracy, the gang up against him. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is coming out victoriously because the heaven and the earth stands as a witness of his innocency, who is fighting a just cause. I was with one of the Yoruba guy yesterday. Do you know what he said? He said that he doesn't know how Tinubu decided to carry the weight of shame that was hauled on him. That this case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was a Fulani case, and Tinubu decided to use his head to carry it. Even Buhari, the Malamis, that rendition kidnapped Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. They knew what they were doing. They were extending Mazi Nnamdi Kanu time in custody. They don't want to interfere. They don't want to meddle into the case because they knew already that it has great consequences and implications. They knew for sure. They snowballed this case to the Yorubas. And he's saying that Tinubu has brought so much hate for the Yorubas that he has beaten the drum of hatred, that the Fulanis are more wiser. They understand that this is a high-profile case, and there is no basis for which Mazi Nnamdi Kanu could be convicted by any legal standard. They dodged their heads until they left. They wouldn't convict Mazi Nnamdi Kanu because there is no basis for which he could be convicted. Even the judges, the prosecuting counsels that tried Mazi Nnamdi Kanu during the era of Buhari, most of them were Fulanis. Even while the verdict that was given, yes, they understand the implication of this. And they handled it very well and pushed it to the Yorubas. And because of the deep-seated hatred for the Igbos, they think that was an opportunity to jump and to clamp down on the Igbos. By the time we are done with the Igbos, they will no longer be relevant in the southeast, let alone in Lagos. We are going to clamp them down. We are going to silence them and the rest of them. And they thought that this was an open opportunity to pour out their venom on the Igbos and subdue them. And look at what is happening to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who was bundled from Abuja, the seat of power, the capital of Abuja, of Nigeria, down to far Sokoto. And the implication of this, as concerns has been raised by well-meaning individuals and the family of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and anyone, of course, that believe in the cause of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's struggle, have raised concern that the security of the life of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is in jeopardy. And as Mazi Nnamdi Kanu family have rightly put it, that Tinubu will be held responsible whatever happens to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. There in the dungeon of the jihadists, in the dungeon of the caliphate of Islamic jihadists, telling us that Sokoto has maximum security is a fallacy. Now let's begin to bust the lies and the deceptive propaganda pushed, Sokoto has a record of religious intolerance. Sokoto, as of today, according to the national dailies published, that over 10 local governments has been overrun by the Islamic jihadists. Now, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, that Sokoto state is the poorest of the poorest state in Nigeria. In fact, it's been described as the capital of poverty in Nigeria, where the population, close to 90% of the populations are poor. Poor, when they say, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, or National Bureau of Statistics, they are rated to be the poorest of the states in Nigeria. What is the implication of this? That there is high level of illiteracy, the high level of poverty, which also they admitted that the North is poor, that the Sokoto is the poorest, despite being the seat of caliphate of the Fulani monarchical system and the rest of them. Now, what is the implication of this? Even the state government is in the state of insolvency. They don't have enough money to even pay school fees, pay salaries, take care of the basic necessities the government owns as a responsibility to the people of Sokoto. The reason why there is escalation of insurgency, kidnapping, and all these Islamic radicals who have been indoctrinated as the only way of survival is kidnapping, just as Gumi has been defending them, that because they don't have a luxurious life in those regions, and now shifting the blame on the people. So the people should be held responsible who deprive them or deny them the opportunity of having a robust or a luxurious life in those regions, who deprive them the opportunity to create and build companies, to empower their people, to send them to schools, where you have the greater populations who are illiterate, uneducated, not even empowered by the state and the rest of them. So the implication of this, ironically, Sokoto prison is the worst prison anyone could imagine or envisage. And one of the oldest prison facilities in Nigeria, dated back to the eras of Lord Lugard, even Nigerian era, pre-colonial era, Master X era. And they still retain the same building, the same structure that have depleted in the course of decades. You understand the implication of this? And according to the National Human Rights Security reports, that Sokoto's prison has poor ventilation. One, the Sokoto prison is overpopulated, has the problem of congestion. It was estimated to accommodate about 500 and so less than 600 inmates, but they have surplus of that. And the poor conditions of the facilities, such as the toilet, and the rest of them, is poor and flush. The gutters are not being well drained, so the area is taken. This is according to the report of the National Human Rights Security evaluation about the Sokoto prison. and the facilities are updated. Even in the environment alone, by every standard, will tell you that a government that is poor, rated as the poorest state, will not even have time to remember even the main citizens, the citizens, the free supposed citizens have not been catered for, let alone remembering investing on the infrastructural rehabilitation, development, renovations, and the rest of them in a place where people supposedly condemned, awaiting trial, uh, should be even prioritized. You understand what that means? So it's the poorest of the poorest of the poorest prison being cited in the capital of poverty, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. Then the governor then objected that was not wrong, but the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics could not be wrong because they have their indices and what could have been factored in to arrive at that particular statistics. And let alone to talk about the availability of basic amenities. There's electric power supply in Sokoto. They don't have access to good potable drinking water. It is being only supplied through a tanker. You know the implication of that. And that definitely might not be regular. So the level of deprivation and lack of denial of the rights of the people, to social amenities and everything, compounded the problem. So it's like wishing your enemy to be in the most horrible and porous, volatile region. Sokoto is a volatile region because oftentimes people, communities are being rounded up, attacked, and the rest of them. Now, what is the numerical strength of the workers within there? They are less than 120 or so. So you know the implication of that. This particular prison is not a maximum prison. It's not a maximum security prison. It is not. It is not a maximum security prison. So how do you tell me that the security of Mazi NNAMDI KANU could be guaranteed? In a case where you have seen terrorists in their thousands can flood communities and the rest of them and overrun the community. We have instances, and history, of course, will attest to this. When Deborah was stoned and eventually burned alive, people raised this concern, even within the premise, the environment, the school environment. This was where this thing happens. And this narrative they gave us then, if you could recall, the public were disturbed. What are the security attached to the school? And within the premises, what are they doing? They claim, those people who are giving the narrative, they told the world that even the DSS, the military, were overpowered by the mobs. Did you get that? They said that the military, the security operatives, were overpowered by the mobs. And this is the reason why Deborah could not be secured, could not be saved. These are narrative they gave to cover up for whatever atrocity in the name of religious blasphemy. An undergraduate was killed by her fellow students in connivance with certain vested interests. They were killed. And when there was an outcry for justice for the slain Deborah, do you know what that means? over 100 and something lawyers came out voluntarily gave their service to defend those who stoned Deborah to death and set her ablaze. You know what that means? People who call themselves lawyers volunteered. These are radicalism, extremism. The fact that a backed lawyer, whether through quota system or whatever, does not erase that threat of terrorism in them. They volunteer themselves to defend the mobs that killed Deborah in such gruesome, inhuman manner. They defended them. And of course, what happens at the end of the day? Because Buhari is in the helm of affairs and his body language even gave credence to those who did that. And everything was covered up and it was sealed. So this is the same Sokoto they are telling us that there is maximum security. While in real sense, it is not a maximum security prison. The facilities are obsolete. When you closely observe the pictures that was taken around, you see the inner, how the inner of the prison. You know, I have been in the north, so I understand what I'm saying. And in a region considered as one of the most poorest states, one of the most poorest, and I never said it. The National Bureau of Statistics has the information. You could also access that. All these informations are before the public domain. It's in the internet. So now, taking Mazi Nnamdi Kanu there is more or less like, we are going to deal with you. Indirectly, we are going to make you, your state, to be vulnerable. Your security, your life could be exposed to level of vulnerability. And the worst of it, considering Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been complaining about the depletion of certain minerals and essential minerals in his body, which he applied for opportunity to be given to him to take care of his health. Just a month or so, turned it down, and they used whatever means because they wanted him to be killed by every means, to die. See the fabrication of the Nigerian Medical Association and the rest of them. The report they gave was misleading. You never run a check. You never conducted any clinical examination or test on Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and you are giving reports about something that you never cross-examined, which is a conspiracy. That is a conspiracy against, of course, the life of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu by a body supposedly under law should not compromise the well-being of their patients as doctors. But that was done, and unfortunately was busted. And Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, of course, have filed a suit against the Nigerian Medical Association for falsifications and lying under oath. A motor show directed them to carry out an investigation, and you are giving a report without an investigation. And the way, of course, they were exposed, they backdated the report, which is an indictment. Again, now, with taking Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to Sokoto, the implication is that, according to the report of the National Human Rights Security and the rest of them, that the Sokoto has no clinic. The facility has no doctor, not even one doctor. About 2 nurses. Imagine where you have 2 or 3 nurses taking care of over 600 plus inmates, prisoners with such environmental and health conditions, and with such overcrowded facilities. You know what that means? If there is outbreak of disease, it will easily spread among them and the rest of them. There is no health clinic or even doctor assigned to those facilities. So where is that maximum security? If there is any issue, of course, that needed to be to seek the attention of the doctor, then they have to convert the person through any means possible. There is not even ambulance attached to the facility. No ambulance attached to the facility. Only about this prison van and the rest of them. You see how devastating, how critical the situation is. In a country where even the citizens, the supposed citizens, innocent citizens, have not been taken care of. No attention, no care, no deliberate attention to prioritize the well-being of the citizens. Is it those supposedly having issues at the correctional center or prison? An average Nigerian prison should not be called even a correctional center. It's where people are made worst, are conditioned psychologically, emotionally, and you see many things is possible there. Many things are going on. The right of the inmates, they have the right, despite the fact that some are waiting trial, some may have been convicted, and the rest of them, they have right, which must be protected as under human fundamental rights. The only rights they might lose at this particular time, pending on the whatever outcome of the litigations and the course of events, is the right to movement has been restricted for those serving terms and the rest of them. Now, if even the main general hospitals are short of personnel and facilities, where the supposedly free citizens can attend, and they are finding it difficult. In one of the cases, I went to one of the federal government hospitals. As early as 7:30, the crowd is overwhelming. At a point, I was asked to come. If I want to be attended to that day, you have to book. They sign something on your paper. You have to come as early as 6 o'clock, 6 a.m., so that you might possibly secure opportunity of seeing the doctor for the day. If you come anything short of 6 a.m. to 6:30, in fact, that day is gone. Both your transportation and everything is lost. You just quietly move back home, or possibly seek for private doctors to attend to you, or go to visit private hospitals and the rest of them. But if you say you want to make use of government facility, government hospitals, then there is a price tag to it. You will not sleep with your two eyes closed. And one of the occasions, when I went there, and in one of the local government hospitals, we weren't attended to. We only wrote our names. The common biodatas was not even, they didn't collect our biodata. You know what that means? You are not your blood, your BP and temperature was not even collected throughout the day. And when it was around after 2, or the rest, the one of the attendant came to say, "Oh, sorry, we can't continue. We've made the quota for the day, and there are also more people to be attended," which I agree, because of the few doctors attending. You can't, about few or three doctors or so cannot be attending to over 200 people. We want them to break down. I even felt for them because that is not realistic. So even the human normal citizens have deficit in medical personnel and the facilities and the rest of them, let alone prison. If we were to be Kuje prison or Krikri, that would have been a different place, because possibly the government might be having some concerns based on the uh, internal generated revenue. But a state that is considered the poorest of the poor, the capital of poverty, that is the worst treatment that could be given to somebody that they want dead by every means possible. It's rather unfortunate. These are the two realities. But whatever happens, as I have rightly said, the Mazi Nnamdi Kanu lead councils, and considering how the farness of this region and how porous it is, that people, his lead councils, could not even access him easily to discuss and the way to go about the appeal and the rest of them, or issues that should be discussed at with the lead councils, Council to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, defending councils, and the rest of them. Distance, they deliberately have shut that possibly out for whatever reasons best known to them. But history will remember these days and happenings. That is certain. Let's have your own take regarding this development, and what is your take being expressed via the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and turn on the notification so that you can get our videos once it's been uploaded. Thank you for watching.